The SEC media disrespecting the Oklahoma Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code Locked On College for 50% off your first year. That's 50% off your first year over at Monarch Money using code Locked On College. He's Jay Smith of Unfair Sports. I'm John Williams of Sooners Wire at USA Today Sports, and we're back from SEC Media Days. Hope you all enjoyed all of the coverage and content that we helped to provide for you out there. Jay, what was one of your favorite interviews that we did or favorite moments that we got to have there at SEC Media Days?
Not only talking to Dari Noka, but as well as Jordan Rogers. I think Jordan Rogers gave some great insight on Ben Arbuckle's offense and what he saw when he went back and watched the tape. Everybody that I've had any type of conversation or interaction with, when they talk about going back to watch the Washington State tape and Ben Arbuckle and John Mateer, they talk about how much fun those games are. Like, you go on social media, people are raving about it. They're like, man, I don't think y'all understand just how much fun it is watching those two work it. And all they see now is year 3 is usually when players take that next big leap, if they're going to take the leap. And a lot of them all see it coming out of John Mateer. What about you?
We're going to, first of all, just talk about what Baker Mayfield had to say about John Mateer when he had his football camp this past weekend. We'll also talk about the potential for Oklahoma to be a title contender in the second segment. And we're going to discuss the SEC media polls and the preseason all SEC teams. But for me, man, it comes down to two people. Jim Nagy, your interview with him, dude was great. I missed him because I was out chasing Brent Venables around and the players trying to get quotes and things like that. But then Mark Henry, my goodness, that dude,
yeah,
the nicest guy maybe I've ever met in sports. Maybe in general, that guy was so nice. And y'all didn't see it, but I had to record the intro twice because the first time I was just shook because I'm standing next to Mark Henry.
He was fanboying it up like crazy.
Yeah, former world heavyweight champion. So make sure you go check out all that stuff that we created and all the interviews that we got to do from last week. If you haven't hit them up, we got a lot of bonus content both in your audio feeds and on YouTube. So go check that out. If you haven't seen or the Dari Noka interview, that's because we had a bit of a mishap technically. So it is on the audio side for you to go listen to it. So please go check that out wherever you download your podcast. But Jay, the SEC media polls came out, and dude, despite all the hype that we were hearing and all the praise that Oklahoma was getting all week long in Atlanta, Oklahoma was voted to finish 10th in the SEC. What are we doing here, Jay? I get they had a terrible year last year, but it was just one half of the ball, and Brent Venables and Jim Nagy and that staff and front office, they've gone in, they've addressed everything on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, a lot of people, and we'll talk about this in the next segment because there's a few things that people fail to realize about this roster and the team that's actually constructed. They're not seeing that this team has enough players to be good enough. They saw how last season went, and the reason why I've been bullish, and I've talked about this numerous times on here, John, and I hope that the fans really get that. For me, this isn't an emotional decision. This isn't a emotional reaction when it comes to Oklahoma, even being as a fan, being a season ticket holder, the way that I'm talking about how this team could be. No, there's nothing about emotion with this. This is literally logic for me. And I look at this and I apply this same logic to other teams that I watch. And for me, for Oklahoma, the fact that their defense was able to win 6 games in this conference, right? 6 games on the season, win 2 games in this conference, 2 games they probably should not have won, pulled those out to be able to finish the year 6-6. Sure, lost in the bowl game, whatever, but finishing 6-6 in your first year and everything fell apart for you. Not very many teams survive that. I mean, people are raving about Auburn right now, and they basically replaced their entire offensive line with a bunch of transfers. They had some veterans come back and some solid wide receivers, but they went 5-7 last year. They didn't even finish with a winning season, and they had their starting quarterback the entire year. So to me, it's what does Oklahoma's got to go on the field and prove it to everybody, but it's funny because in this poll, John, with so many people talking about and hyping up Oklahoma overall, you can tell that a lot of people did not want to put their name truly behind it. They wanted to just say, hey, I did mention Oklahoma was going to seem like a good team, possibly, maybe, I think so. They felt like they wanted to make sure they could have a reason to deflect or a reason to say, hey, I try to tell you guys that Oklahoma is going to be good.
Yeah, there's a lot of hedging. It seems like it's like
so much hedging.
I think Oklahoma's going to be really, really good, but I'm not ready to vote them any higher than 10th. Remember, if you go back to Spencer McLaughlin's preseason SEC power rankings from Locked On College Football, we'll take a look at that. He had Oklahoma 6. So SEC media not nearly as high on Oklahoma as our guy Spencer at Locked On College Football. The SEC media voted Texas number 1, Georgia number 2, Alabama 3, LSU 4, South Carolina 5. And I think in most people's minds, those are your top 5 teams in the conference. And then from 6 to 10, you could probably put this group of Florida, Ole Miss, A&M, Tennessee, and Oklahoma in any order that you might like. But Oklahoma behind Tennessee doesn't quite make sense given what they lost last year. You lost Dylan Sampson. I mean, that dude was the bread and butter of that offense last year. You lost Nico Yamaleava. I get he was not the best quarterback in the nation last year, but probably was ready to take a step this year. You were going to lose several guys at wide receiver. You lost James Pierce Jr. at defensive end. A lot of losses there. You look at Ole Miss coming in at number 7. Jackson Dart's not there. Chris Paul Jr. is not there. Walter Nolan is not there. This is a very different team that's going to be taking the field down there in Oxford. I can understand the Texas A&M hype. I can understand the Florida hype, but Ole Miss and Tennessee are the two for me that I'm like, I'm not sure that they're going to finish better than Oklahoma.
Ole Miss last year's team was probably the best team. Well, actually, Stephen Willis over there at Locked On Ole Miss said it was the best team that he's ever seen on paper for Ole Miss, and they definitely underachieved. So we really think that they're going to come in here and do better than that team last year, and they've got a new quarterback. Like, I think Austin Simmons is going to be a solid quarterback. I don't know if this is the year where he breaks out. I think next season he's going to be a problem, and if I had to pick them next season, I'm definitely going to say, yeah, I think they'll finish top 10 next year easily, no problem. They may actually finish top 5 because I know that they're going to spend time in the transfer portal, and they're going to go after some top-rated players to make sure that they can fill up whatever holes they need. But they live in the portal. And when we talk about it next segment, there's a kind of a reason why I'm not as high on some of these other teams as well. Like, I like what South Carolina has to offer just because of Lenore Sellers. I think that he's going to be a beast. Him and Nico Harbor and then Dylan Stewart. So I could totally understand them at 5 because of last season and just the BS that happened in the LSU game prevented them from making it to the playoffs. They should have made it to the playoffs. I mean, just because of that BS right there, that's what kept them out. But John, to me, it's just, you're right. 6 through 10 is interchangeable. That I will not argue. I won't argue 6 through 10. I won't argue Florida, Ole Miss, A&M, Tennessee, and us not being interchangeable. I do see that we should be interchanged a little bit higher than that, though. I do believe that we could finish top 4 in this conference. Like, that is a definite possibility, and I'm not going to hedge. I'm going to be hardcore in on what I believe about Oklahoma, mainly because I think Brent Venables has proven to us now that, especially he's about to start calling the plays, that the one side of the ball that we expected him to make better, he's made better, guys. He has literally improved this defense year over year consistently, and this is probably his best defense he's had since he's been here. So if this is the best team he's had since he's been at Oklahoma, and he had injuries last year and they only won and they got to 6 wins, people, don't get it twisted. Barring injury, knock on wood, this team's going to go up pretty high.
Yeah. Who's the team in that top 5 that you feel like has the best chance to not finish inside the top 5?
Texas. I'm not even going to say it as a hater. It's just they had a lot of stuff that they had to swap out. Everybody said the same thing about us last year. We got questions. You guys you lost all 4 offensive linemen, starters. You got a lot of this, that, and the other. Totally got it. I said the same thing. I said there was questions there. I just needed to see them do it, and the questions didn't get answered. Texas had the same questions. I don't care what nobody say. The offensive lines got questions, and they got a quarterback that's starting for the first time who looks shooketh in the game that they really need him to not look shooketh in.
Yep. Yeah, you look at that defense, and it's going to be really, really good. With what they've got on that side of the ball, I think you could feel confident that Texas is going to be a good team. I'm just not ready to put them at number one. Could they go win it all? Could they go win the SEC? I think they could, but the schedule is really, really difficult to navigate. I've had some Texas people actually tell me that the schedule is maybe a little bit more difficult than what people are making it out to be. That being said, if Arch is ready to be Arch, the Arch that everybody expects, year one, day one, then they'll be good. But listen, there might be some growing pains, and that's not to say that he won't ever turn into a great quarterback. It's just first year as a starter, he might go through some things. It happens. It's a tough league. We saw lots of upsets last year that we did not expect to see in 2024. Could very well see some of those this year as well. Why are we high on Oklahoma? Well, it's because of that blue chip ratio. CBS Sports thinks they're one of the 18 teams that has a chance to win the national title in 2025. Coming up, we'll discuss here on Locked On Sooners. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Monarch allows you to see all of your subscriptions in one place so that you can know that you're paying for things that maybe you forgot you were paying for, and you can get that stuff handled. It allows you to set your spending, understand where maybe you're spending more than what you'd like to. So go check out Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year over at monarchmoney.com. And thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jay, the blue chip ratio from CBS Sports and 247 Sports came out late last week, and let's discuss it, man, because while a lot of people are unsure about Oklahoma's chances to be a contender in 2025, the blue chip ratio that says, hey, if you have a majority of your roster as 4 or 5 star prospects, you have a better chance at winning the national title than not. So,
since they put this out, it's been pretty consistent. I mean, the one team that was an outlier. I think it was outside the 70 percentile was Michigan, and they was at 54%. And it was mainly because Michigan's a super physical team. They just go out there and beat you up, and they got the right players. They got the right 3 stars to go with their 4s and go with whatever 5s they can get their hands on. And they decided that a power run offense was going to win it with a 5-star quarterback that didn't actually have to throw the ball. Now we'll see what JJ McCarthy looks like with the Minnesota Vikings whenever he, gets off the injury list or whatnot. But they were able to do everything they needed to do without him having to actually chunk the ball very often. And that shows you the complexities of defenses in college football nowadays, that it's a challenge. You're not seeing a lot of quarterbacks go out there and just dominate other teams. It's becoming more and more work. But outside of that, though, John, it's funny that everyone is complaining about this 26 recruiting class. I totally understand the fears and stuff of recruiting or whatnot, but this 26 class really isn't going to matter until about 2028. So, in the future, this could be an issue for us, unless we fill some gaps with a bunch of transfers that are in the right area to be able to prepare for that 28-29 season. That's when that 2026 class matters. Like this year, this season, 2022 and 2023 are critical players right now. R. Mason Thomas, Robert Spears-Jennings, Gentry Williams, Kip Lewis. These are 2022 dudes that are now here. So that veteran presence you're going to need, it's going to be most important at that point. Unless you have your 2026-7 class step up hardcore and they become you get a whole bunch of big-time players, and they're the ones that play. So John, to me, I get the, like I said, I get the understanding of it, but this blue chip ratio you're about to show, hey, makes you feel good about this team, right?
So let's take a look here. So Oklahoma comes in 9th in blue chip ratio for 2025. Again, the teams that have a chance to actually contend for the national title: Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, top 3, Texas A&M, Oregon, Texas, LSU, Notre Dame, and then Oklahoma. Oklahoma is right at 70% blue chip ratio. This is according to 247 Sports. And listen, not too far behind a Notre Dame at 73%, LSU at 73%, Texas at 78%. So while, yes, I get maybe people's concerns about this class, and depending on where you look, okay, if you want to look at 247 Sports, okay, that's going to tell you one thing. You go look at Rivals. Oklahoma's got a pretty strong blue chip ratio over there at Rivals. So it just kind of depends on where you look and whose evaluations you like, maybe a little bit better than others. But what this says to me is not only have they worked to develop a roster that does have talent, if the stars are what you're looking at, they've also done a good job in the transfer portal to recruit talent as well. Okay. Deion Burks was a 3-star prospect coming out of high school. He was a 4-star transfer. Okay. Marvin Jones Jr. might have been a 5-star prospect coming out of high school. I don't know if you'd consider him a 5-star transfer.
He was a 4-star. He was a 4-star in their ratings or whatnot.
So a 4-star, but still a blue chip transfer addition. Jaden Knott, same thing, a blue chip transfer addition. John Mateer, what was he, a 2 or 3-star coming out of high school, but a highly sought after, highly regarded transfer prospect. So Oklahoma's done a good job at building the roster and creating a roster that's got talent. You look at that defensive side of the ball, and the 2 deep is littered with 4-star talent. You have a few 3-stars kind of sprinkled in there, but I mean, the depth chart is loaded with 4-star talent across the board, both sides of the ball.
So for the uninitiated, that blue chip ratio is only your recruits, doesn't include transfers. And so so your foundation at Oklahoma, and this is the big thing, John, and you talked about this a little bit, but to elaborate more, Oklahoma has done a really good job of retaining players too. They're one of the few schools that have probably like a high 70, 80% retention rate of kids actually staying at the school and going through the development line, right? You do lose kids in the portal. Kids are going to get homesick. They're going to realize they're not going to play, or you've got a younger player that's going to jump them and they're not going to ever see the field. But what Oklahoma has done is done a good job of maintaining the majority of the players that they need to have in order to have the proper foundation to be successful. And that's what we're seeing now. We're getting those players. Again, the 2022 class is the players that are playing right now. Go look at that class. Go look at those players that was in that class and who's on the roster now. A lot of them 4s and 5s here. They're playing this season, and they're your anchors. They're your most important players. And so because of that, the Oklahoma Sooners and Brent Venables and the staff have done a good job. And they've retained majority of the actual coaching staff too, John. Like, we haven't really lost. We've lost coordinators. That's about it. Yep. Like, your position coaches are still here. The ones that was flipping guys and getting guys to stick around in that 2022 class, they're here. So because of that, you're now getting to get the fruits of that labor, and you're getting veterans. So again, at this 2026 class, if we were to see it be kind of a scary situation for us, it'll be, how does this team look in 2028? The 2028 season would be when, well, actually 2029 season, about 3 years later, is when you'll see, be like, okay, what do we have in veterans or whatnot? And so as we fill this class up for the rest of the year, we'll be fine. But the good thing is, number 9 in the country, though, John. So that on that ratio, it's 18 teams only. Only 18 teams they have shown can win a national championship based upon them doing the research. Oklahoma being 9. Last year, I think we were 7th. So, but we were young as heck, and that's when you learned it. Now you're playing more veterans. It's gonna be different. It should be a different story.
Well, and again, it was a very injured group,
Very.
Listen, even if that group's healthy, they're probably not winning the national title, but they're a lot closer to a 10-win team than what we saw.
Yep.
They might be flirting with 10 wins. This is a team, I think, that can flirt with 10 wins. The defense is going to be good. Again, you look at the front 4, it's got blue chippers all across the front 4. You look at the linebacker group, Kobe McKenzie, Kip Lewis. Those guys were 4-star prospects coming out of high school. You look at the cornerback position. Gentry Williams was a 4-star prospect coming out of high school. At safety, you've got a 4-star in Robert Spears Jennings and a 5-star in Peyton Bowen ready to take over. Along your offensive line, you've got 4-star talents. 247 Sports had Logan Howland as a 4-star prospect coming out of high school. Heath Ozida at different places was a 4-star prospect coming out of high school. You're going to have a lot of talented players. They just have to develop and they have to continue to grow. Again, we saw good things out of those young offensive linemen last year. It just wasn't consistently good, right? The Alabama game, they showed what the potential is. Then you got to take it to the next step, right? Now, hopefully that's what this offseason was about. And you added better depth behind those guys as well. So you get a guy like Jaden Gibson, a 4-star prospect, Caden Helms, 4-star. Now, got to get those guys healthy and on the field, but the talent is there. The potential is there for those guys to be big time players.
100% agree. And that's the beauty of having that, having this many players and having a staff that's able to retain people, because one of the biggest struggles usually for new coaches is keeping staff members, keeping position coaches. You're doing a lot of replacing and stuff. And luckily for Oklahoma, it's really only been coordinators and one guy. And I mean, of course, we're going through 3 coordinators in the last year, but Lebby got a head coaching job and now he's in year 2 over there at Mississippi State. You had to fire one guy, and now you're bringing in another dude to really run it, because the other guy that was running the offense with them, you decided that wasn't the way to go. There's nothing wrong with that. That happens. It would be a problem if this happened again this year.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
No. If Ben Arbuckle doesn't work out, then you got bigger problems than that.
Exactly.
But I don't think anybody's sitting here saying Ben Arbuckle's not going to work. Just the only question anybody has is, how much is it going to work? It's going to work.
Yeah.
Oklahoma's offense is going to be good. It's just a matter of how good is it going to be?
It'll be at least 10 times better as last year, but we just don't know where that goes.
Right. Is it going to be a 35-point per game offense, a 40-point per game offense? Is it going to be good enough offense? Like, that's going to be the question, right? It's not that anybody doubts that this thing offensively can't be good. It's just a matter of how good they're going to be. And will they get the right breaks at the right time in some of these close games that they're going to play? Because they're going to play some close games, right? We saw close games last year with an offense that was boo-boo, and we weren't able to get the right breaks or make the right play at the right time to have a chance in those games. But anyway, Baker Mayfield was in Norman for his annual football camp, but media had a chance to talk to him, and we'll hear what he had to say about one John Mateer coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you're checking your podcast feeds for your drive home in the afternoons, because we're dropping more bonus content from time to time. That way you got your show in the morning on the way into work. You got your show in the afternoon on the way home. We want to have you covered all football season long, because there's going to be way more content sometimes than what we're able to cover in our morning episode. So just be on the lookout for some of that sometimes. And we might hit you on the weekends with some bonus content as well. But Jay, Baker Mayfield spoke to the media about one John Mateer over the weekend, and just talked about his phone call with them. And here's one of the things that really stood out initially. And this, I'm reading this from the Oklahomans, Colton Sully. We had Colton on our show last week to talk Oklahoma football, but this one stood out really. He said he's pretty comfortable in the underdog role. We can relate on that part. And I think, listen, you go back and you listen to Baker and you watch Baker from his time at Oklahoma. I think that's one of the things that everybody loved about him, right? He was this guy that played with a chip on his shoulder from being under recruited and having to walk on at a place, and then even having his job taken from him basically, and not get an opportunity to compete for that job. Yeah. John Mateer kind of comes with a similar mentality. It sounds like
he does. And I like that Baker feels like they can kind of relate, right? Both of them, underdogs, not really not really heavily recruited like they wanted to. Baker being a walk-on, because he lost his job due to an injury and having to figure things out. And, heck, he didn't even talk to Coach Stoops. He just kind of just showed up and said, hey, I'm coming. I don't care what you say. I'm going to show up. I won't play here. I've always been a fan. I'm going to do it. And I basically, Baker saw his mark and was like, yep, I'm about to take his job. And he got here, and what'd he do? He took a job. So you got that, which is always a plus. But I like the fact that Baker sees that with Mateer. We keep hearing the comparisons of whatnot. Mateer, of course, says that's high praise. He appreciates it, but at the same time, he's himself, and he wants to be a great version of John Mateer, which I totally get. I totally get the not wanting to be fully compared to Baker Mayfield, because that's some big shoes to fill. Man's won an Heisman. He was considered one of the best quarterbacks in college football history based upon the way he performed. Well, John's going to have to go out there and at least put up half the numbers. But the best part for him, though, is he's going to have a really solid defense to his system. And so Baker knows talent. Like, Baker he was underdog in the NFL. He's been a journeyman, and now he's found a home at my Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Thank goodness. I actually love having him as my quarterback. I just need John to go out there and I need him to relish in the underdog role and just start slanging that thing. I need some tutties. It's been a while.
Well, I think what John talked about last week at SEC Media Days, when being asked about the comp, because he's been asked about the comparisons ad nauseum, is that the best way to leave a legacy is to just go win football games. Yep. And let the rest of it take care of itself, because that's what Baker Mayfield did. I mean, Baker Mayfield went and won a lot of football games. He didn't win the national championship, but he won conference championships, won a big game up there in the shoe at Ohio State, planted the flag, and established himself as one of the best quarterbacks of the 21st century simply by winning football games, putting up big numbers, obviously, and a lot of the persona goes along with that. But you win, and you pretty much write your own ticket, especially in Oklahoma lore, as a quarterback. If you go win a bunch of football games, you carry Oklahoma to the college football playoff, people are going to remember you, especially if you do it for multiple years. Baker, I think, is beloved in a lot of ways because he was the Oklahoma quarterback for 3 seasons, not just one. He came and he put up big numbers for multiple years at the University of Oklahoma. And so I think that was part of it, not just a one and done. I mean, everybody loves Kyler, everybody loves Jalen, but not to the same extent that we love Baker. So for John Mateer, like, that's what it comes down to for you, is go play and go win. Here's what else Baker had to say. Before I knew he was coming here, as a fan of football, you watch college football when you're on the road, when we travel. I loved the way he plays. There are some similarities in our game, the way he carries himself. You can tell that leadership goes a long way with him. So I love that. And I'm excited that he came in, and we'll see what happens, but I'm excited. It's exciting. Yeah.
Bet it is. And that's the thing. It's football players love watching football. And everyone that, I mentioned this in the first segment, that everyone that watched the games that found themselves up for a little bit of a Pac-12 after dark, which is always a good time. I'm so glad that it's actually going to come back. They talked about how much fun it was watching Washington State. Everything about them was fun, and you felt it. You just felt how fun it is. And with Mateer being a much, I guess you could say, quote unquote, stronger runner than Baker. I mean, it's nothing against Baker. Baker knows this. He knows that he wasn't really a running quarterback. He was a quarterback that could run, and he would run often. That dude runs. Mm-hmm. John Mateer tucks, quarterback design run, and he's bigger. Like, he's purposely up there getting closer to 230 to be able to absorb all of these hits that he knows he's going to take. Hopefully he avoids more of them. But he's going to take some hits.
Yeah.
Teams are going to go after him. They're going to go after his legs. That's going to be the only way to bring a dude like him down. They're going to have to find ways to tackle this man. And guess what? Mateer's going to be ready for it. He's going to be ready to perform and play. And so, yeah, I am here 100% for what he's going to give us this season.
Yeah, it's maybe one of the most anticipated quarterback debuts in a while. Like, I know everybody was really excited about Caleb, but you didn't know that you were going to get Caleb in that 2021 season, right? It was still Spencer Rattler. He was the starting quarterback. And while everybody was like eager to see Caleb, you didn't know that you were going to get him then when you did. And then obviously when he came, it was just like, dude, Caleb's here. He's ready to go. I think maybe everybody was excited about Spencer. I don't know, back in 2020, if the hype was as high then as it was now. I think because COVID, there was so much uncertainty as to whether the season would be played even, that maybe there just wasn't as much talk about, the excitement behind getting to see Spencer Rattler as there maybe is with John Mateer. And a lot of that could just simply be because you've seen John Mateer go produce at the collegiate level, that now that he's here, like, oh, let's go. Let's see what he can do for Oklahoma, because you need a bounce back season offensively. And hopefully here's the guy that's going to take you to that next level. And listen, I think he's the guy, man. I think he's got it. He's got that it factor, that saying I'm him, like he's him. He's a dude that's going to lead your team, and he's going to lead from the front. He's going to be a guy that, and we dropped a little short about it. He wants to show who he is with his work ethic and his determination and his demeanor. And I think all of that stuff, all of the intangible stuff that you can't see in a box score, you can't see even sometimes when you flip on the film, it's those intangibles that I think are going to make the biggest difference for Oklahoma this year.
Yeah, he brings that energy. He brings the energy of, I want to put this team on my back, and I want to go win some games. And if he can win some ball games, man, he's going to go down in Oklahoma history as yet again another great transfer quarterback.
And that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Again, go check out all of the content we created for you from last week. A lot of great interviews with Jim Nagy, Mark Henry, Colton Sully of the Oklahoman, Parker Thune of OU Insider, all Jordan Rogers, ESPN. Who else? Tyler McComas of the Ref. Dario
we had Richard Johnson from
CBS Sports. What else we got? SEC Mike. We had SEC Mike on from that SEC podcast. Again,
we had Robert Spears Jennings.
Had that one too. Sorry, Robert. One of our everydayers here on Locked On Sooners. So again, go check out all of the content out there. Thank you so much again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Check out the Portal show with our guy Brian Smith covering recruiting and the transfer portal over there on the Locked On network as well. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, on YouTube. You can follow me at John9Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer
Sooner.
Football is so close. I can taste it.
I can taste it.
I can taste it.
Gene, show me yourself.
Ribs. Nom, 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 nom.